You spin up an agentic coding run and the bill comes back twice what you budgeted, and the slower model is the one that burned it. Qwen 3.8 and Kimi K3 are both cheap on paper, but the real-world numbers tell a different story. Qwen 3.8 is Alibaba's agentic coding specialist. Kimi K3 is Moonshot's open-weight multimodal powerhouse. One of them fits your workflow, and I'm about to show you which. Alright, so test 1 is cost. Output tokens are where agentic runs bleed money fast, and both models charge the same 0.60 per million on input, so that's not where the gap opens. On output, Qwen 3.8 is at 220 per million output tokens, Kimi K3 is at 250, and in a heavy coding workflow, those millions add up quick. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Went through the community reports on real agentic coding runs, and Qwen 3.8 consistently came out about 2 times cheaper in practice, across actual workflows where the model is calling tools and generating long outputs. The per token delta is small, but the real-world multiplier is real, and that's the number that matters when you're running this at scale. Now, the per million output gap is genuinely not a lot on a single call, so I wouldn't lean too hard on it in isolation. But the community consensus on 2 times cheaper in full agentic workflows is consistent enough that I treat it seriously. If your runs are short and text only, the gap shrinks. But if you're running long multi-step agents, Qwen 3.8's cost advantage compounds fast. Qwen 3.8 takes cost, and it's not just the spec sheet. The 2 times cheaper real-world number is what I didn't expect to be this consistent across community reports. That puts Qwen 3.8 on the board first, 1-0. I've run enough agentic coding workflows to know that the per token price is almost never the real price. And I'd love to know if you've gotten burned by that gap too, so drop your experience in the comments. Okay, test 2, coding benchmark performance. The number that matters here is SWE bench verified. It's the closest thing we have to a real-world coding pass rate, and a 3-point gap on that benchmark can mean the difference between an agent that ships a PR and one that spins in circles. I've also got front-end code arena scores and a direct Goldie bench head-to-head to look at. So here's what actually happened. Kimi K3 leads on SWE bench verified at 75.1 versus Qwen 3.8's 72.6, and it leads on front-end code arena at 71.9 versus 68.4, both community reported scores. But then I ran the direct Goldie bench head-to-head, and Qwen 3.8 flips it, winning 22-17 on shared tasks, which is pretty interesting because the standard evals and the head-to-head genuinely disagree. The benchmarks genuinely disagree here, so I want to be upfront about that. Kimi K3 leads on the 2 standard evals by a few points, but Qwen 3.8 wins the direct matchup on shared tasks. The Goldie bench head-to-head is measured rather than community reported, which I think gives it more weight. But Kimi K3's edge on SWE bench is real, and you shouldn't ignore it. Kimi K3 takes coding benchmark performance, 2 out of 3 data points go its way, and the SWE bench lead is the kind of number that matters for real agent work. I expected the direct head-to-head to settle it cleanly, but the standard evals pulled Kimi K3 over the line, and were tied at 1 each. Test 3, speed. And this one is personal, because the day your coding agent starts feeling like it's thinking in slow motion is the day you start questioning whether the cost savings are worth it. I'm looking at raw output tokens per second, and also what users actually report when they're running these models through real coding sessions day to day. Kimi K3 clocks 85 tokens per second, Qwen 3.8 hits 78, so a 7 token gap on paper, which sounds fine. But the community reports on Qwen 3.8. Macs are pretty consistent. People are calling it seriously slow in real use, not a small annoyance. That perceived latency gap is way bigger than the raw numbers suggest, and for an agentic loop that's calling back and forth, slow feels brutal. The raw token per second gap is only 7 tokens, which on its own is not a big deal. The real story is the perceived latency. Community reports specifically call out Qwen 3.8 max as seriously slow, and that's a first-class pain point. For a single short call, you probably won't notice, but for a multi-step agent running dozens of turns, Kimi K3's snappier feel matters a lot. Kimi K3 wins speed. The raw numbers lean its way, and the community reports on Qwen 3.8 being seriously slow in practice turned a close call into a clear one. That puts Kimi K3 ahead 2-1, so Kimi K3 is up 2-1, and Qwen 3.8 is holding its cost advantage. But context, window size, and deployment flexibility are still on the table, and those two dimensions could completely flip which model actually fits your workflow, especially if you're running long context agent pipelines, or need to self-host. Let's see what the numbers say. Test 4, context and output limits. Your agent is mid-task, it's got a massive codebase loaded in, and it hits the context wall. Everything after that point gets dropped, and the model starts hallucinating what it can't see. Context window size is the hard ceiling on how much your agent can hold in its head at once, and max output length determines how much it can ship in a single pass. I didn't expect the gap to be this wide. Kimi K3 has a 1 million token context window. Qwen 3.8 is at 256K, which is 4 times smaller. On max output, Kimi K3 can generate 64K tokens in one pass. Qwen 3.8 caps at 32K. So if you're feeding a large repo into an agent and asking it to refactor a whole module in one go, Qwen 3.8 runs out of room fast. Kimi K3 wins context and output limits, and this one wasn't close at all. 4 times the context and 2 times the max output is a structural advantage, not a marginal one. That moves the score to Kimi K3 3, Qwen 3.8 1. Test 5, deployment and modality. You've built a workflow that needs to read a screenshot, parse an error image, or process a video frame, and your model is text only. Now you're rewriting your pipeline to add a separate vision model, and that's an extra API call, extra latency, extra cost. Deployment flexibility matters too. If you need to self-host for compliance or cost reasons, being locked to a single cloud provider is a real constraint. Kimi K3 handles images, audio, and video natively. Qwen 3.8 is text only, full stop. On deployment, Kimi K3 has open weights and runs on Hugging Face, so you can self-host it. Qwen 3.8 is locked to Alibaba Cloud's API. Watch the scorecards here. On multimodal support, Kimi K3 scores a 9 versus Qwen 3.8's 3, and on deployment flexibility, it's 8 versus 4, which is a clean sweep. Kimi K3 takes deployment and modality, open weights, multimodal, self-hostable on Hugging Face, versus a text-only model tied to one cloud. Kimi K3 wins 4 tests to Qwen 3.8's 1, and that's your final score. So where does Qwen 3.8 actually win? Cost, pretty clearly. The per million output gap adds up to about 2 times cheaper in real agentic coding runs, according to community reports, and it also wins the direct Goldie bench head-to-head 22-17, which is worth keeping in mind if you weight head-to-head results over standard evals. Kimi K3 wins on pretty much everything else. It's faster at 85 tokens per second versus 78, and users say it feels way snappier in real use. The context window is 4 times bigger at 1 million tokens. Max output is 2 times larger at 64K. It handles images and video natively, and the open weights let you self-host it wherever you want. That's a lot of ground to cover. If you're on a tight budget, running text-only tasks, Qwen 3.8 is the smart buy. That 2 times cheaper real-world number is real money. But if you're doing serious agent work with long context, images, or you need to self-host, Kimi K3 is the pick, and it's not close. One thing the docs don't spell out, users report real confusion around token quota limits on Qwen 3.8's paid plans. The budgeting is opaque enough that production costs run higher than the per token price suggests, even before you factor in the speed hit on the max tier. I couldn't find any published quota figure, so plan for surprise overage. Now, if you're already using Kimi K3 and wondering whether the next version is worth upgrading to, I did a full breakdown on exactly that. Go check out Kimi K2.7. Is the upgrade worth it? And you'll get a straight answer on whether it's actually a step forward or just a version bump.